Thanks for tuning in. In this episode, we mount the pump, we mount the water tank, and we install the filter system. By the end of this video, the trailer starts generating its own water and putting it into the tank. If you're enjoying this build series, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment down below, but let's get into it. So now on to the water system. So I'm going to use this stainless steel blue technology water filtration system. I'm thinking about mounting this up here, up high, because we pile stuff right here. There's not a lot of room over here. So I'm thinking about right here, and then that way it's sort of serviceable. One of the issues I had with is this was the intake, and then that was the output. So luckily it has all these screws on top, so I flipped it around, and then I even flipped these stickers around. So now everything is right. And then these are all stainless canisters. You just unscrew them, the filters are inside. It has hose fittings on there, so 3/4 hose fittings. And I bought 3/4 to 1/2 inch bar because the pump we're gonna be running is this SureFlow 55 series pump, which has a max 60 psi or 4.14 bar, 5.5 gallons a minute. So initially I was thinking that I was going to mount this guy up here, but I kind of don't like that. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount it down here. Now that way it's lower than the tank, so it should never have a problem priming. This is a self-priming pump, but it should never have a problem priming if it's lower than the tank. The other thing too is you could, be thinking that you have it so close to the batteries. The batteries are sealed, so I'm not worried about that. The batteries are sealed all the way up to up here, and even this goes on the inside of that, so they're pretty well sealed. So I'm not too concerned about that. So I'm just going to mount that down. Basically, all I did was use these furniture nuts that dig in. These are 832s. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this into the wall. Where those 832s are, I'm going to drill that out because I just wanted maximum engagement, and it's what I could find right now. A little bit shorter would have been nice, but about 1/4 inch shorter would have been nice. But these furniture nuts stick out anyways, so I'm going to drill that out anyways. And then I got 6 wood screws that are going to put this on the wall, and then I'm going to cover the back of this in wood glue. So this thing is, the pump can come off, but this won't be coming off. So the pump's pretty cool. It's got a strainer coming in. So basically this will be living right in there, and a line will be coming off, curving around, going into it, and then coming off of it, going up, and then plugging into this side of the water filtration, going into a T, going into a nozzle at the end, and then coming back around, and then going into the bathroom. So I'm going to start working on that, and I'll come back. All right, this part's pretty straightforward. We're just mounting up the pump. It's kind of funny because this pump, when it's on, it still shakes this whole wall. I guess it's pretty powerful. All right, I want to talk about the filter. It's a Blue Technology Trio filter. So it's a 3-stage filter. It has a longevity filter, which kind of filters out all the sediment. And then it has a 0.2 micron filter, which on their website, it says it actually filters out some viruses. So most filtration systems on the market, you're lucky if they're 5 to 10 microns. This is 0.2. And then it has a tasty filter. I guess it just adds like a bit of flavor back into the water. So it's like, it says it's a coconut shell activated carbon filter. So we've tasted the water out of this. It tastes pretty good. This whole thing weighs about 6 pounds. I don't know if that's 6 pounds with it full of water or not. It is a little bit pricey in the $400 range, but it was the best filter for our application. And the whole filter system is made out of stainless except for the filters themselves. But its installation was fairly simple. And then right here, I finally got that piece I've been waiting for in stock from, I think I just ordered it from Amazon. But yeah, so now this part can get all tidied up. Okay, so what we did in here was, so this is a 1/2 inch line, and then I have it going into a ball valve, and I'm using the ball valve as a flow control because this faucet flows so much that it could, like, we're not gonna have a ton of water on here, so I'd rather be able to control it as a trickle or just enough to get your hands clean or brush your teeth, in comparison to just full, crazy pressure washing in the sink. So what we did here is I cut off the ends that came on the sink. I couldn't easily find an adapter that was from this to a pipe tap, and it was taking too much time. I'm sure there's something, but it was just taking too much time. So basically got 1/2-inch barb into a 1/2-inch ball valve. I went with the 1/2-inch ball valve because if you look on the inside of there, the 1/2-inch has more flow than, say, a 1/4-inch. So then it's going into a 1/4-inch barb that's coming out, and then it's going into a Y coming out, splitting off. So basically, if I would have just put this going into one side, what would happen is when you reach up here and you're grabbing, somewhere between hot and cold or something like that, you're kind of just like in the middle, then it would have caused the water to mix with the other side, and then you would have been coming out the other side. So now both sides are pressurized with the same temperature water, so it doesn't matter where you're at. So you could be here, you could be there, it doesn't matter. So that's with the ball valve on, and if you can tell, it's mostly closed, and I'm getting that much flow. So if I go, so that's fully open. Hear the pump kick on. So I think somewhere in there is probably pretty good. All right, let's take you into the trailer now. All right, so I pretty much hot wired the pump, and I'm hot wiring it just to check for leaks because there's a lot of stuff going on here. I wanted to see if any of this was going to leak. So just to catch you up, water's coming in here from the pump. So it's coming out that side of the pump. It's coming in here. Okay, coming in here, going through here, going through all these filters, and then going right here, and then this tees off to the sink in the bathroom. So that goes back down and then goes into the bathroom wall. Right here goes all the way over here to where we're gonna have a faucet, so we can fill up water bottles, or my favorite idea right here is so the company that makes this is Blue Technologies. They also have this cool hose, which is pretty small diameter for a hose, but it's 25 feet long, has a stainless steel quick disconnect. And you see, so I got it pulling out of that bucket, but check this out. That's pretty good, huh? So the pump maintains 60 PSI. So, surprisingly, that's off. Usually, that would be, anyways. So, you'll see. See? Nothing. Go like this. I mean, that's getting it pretty far. And then, not to mention, I still got 25 feet of hose. So, pretty excited about that. Did have some leaks when I first fired it up right here. So, I put on a ton of Teflon tape and then really tightened it down. No leaks over here. Did have a leak underneath the sink, but I just put a bunch more Teflon tape to the point where it was hard to screw on. That's how much Teflon tape I ended up putting on. But nothing right here, I'm feeling around everything, nothing. I was kind of concerned about these because this one I had to put 2 of the hose gaskets on there because it was not fitting, and I can kind of a little bit, but it's sealing, so gotta love that. Oh, the other reason I put the hose going behind here was not only for clearance, but because the bracket's only bolted at the top. These were kind of, so that hose right there is acting like a little bit of a cushion. So So pretty excited about that whole thing. So I think what I'm going to start on next is I'm going to disconnect all this. And then I'm going to start focusing on the tank. So the things we got to do to the tank are... Let me get some light over here. All right, so the things we got to do to the tank. Got to put all the fittings in the end. I have to put another hole somewhere up here for the vent. And then I have to put the... I have a gauge, a fill gauge. So we'll know how much is in the tank. Got to put that over there in the corner so it doesn't interfere with the shelf. And I think that's it. And then, well, plumbing all of this. Plumbing is going to be the nightmare. I'm probably going to focus on putting another spacer block right here. So just like how it's spaced out right there. So then that's spaced right there. And then maybe put... one or two on this side, not super tight, but just tight enough. I'll probably put some of that foam that I had right there on them, so they're just a tiny bit of cushion. I don't need it like super tight right there. I just don't want it like this, like banging around. So I'm thinking just a block right there. I'll probably just clamp it and glue it in. Nothing big deal. And then probably something similar over here, and cut the board for the end right here, so that can be clamped on. And then that board, I think I'm going to put one of these tie wrap fittings I have. I'll have a link in the description for them. Basically, it has a screw hole and then 2 loops. You can get them in bulk on Amazon. Not a big deal, but so you just screw it in the wall, then you got some place to tie wrap down. I'll probably put one of those on that board that's going across here, and then it'll hold on to the hose that's going into the bathroom. So, other than that, that's about it, and I'm going to get working on that now. Okay, got all the fittings on. This is the one right here that I just drilled it close to the thread size, and then I just forced it in, and then took it back out, put a bunch of Teflon tape on there, and then forced it back in. This plastic is about 1/4 inch thick, so it's pretty hefty. So, and this part should not be underwater, so let me walk you through it. So this will go out to the pump. This is the inlet for the dehumidifier. This is an outlet that has a hose fitting and a valve. So it's an adapter to the valve to a hose fitting. All stainless, everything's stainless. And this is the vent tube, and then this is the fill tube. The next thing we need to do is put on this sending unit. So this is about the size of the hole we need. These are some stainless screws, but these are machine thread. I'm probably going to use something closer to more of a stainless wood screw thread pitch. That way I think it'll bite into this quite a bit easier. So this is all stainless except for the float. Not sure what that is, probably just plastic or something. But it uses, I guess, a magnetic signal. I guess there's a magnet in this, and then this whole thing picks up. So I just need to drill the spot for this. I just put this in, and the shelf stops right here. So anywhere in this region, I should be good. So I'm going to drill that out. So the most ideal place to put this gauge or this sender would probably be dead center in the middle of the tank, but because of the shelf, that is not a place I can put it, because it would probably get damaged from the shelf. So right here is just going to have to be the best place, and I just use a hole saw to drill it out, and this part's actually pretty easy and straightforward. Right here we're just mounting some spacer blocks to keep the water tank from just getting bashed around. So it's just gluing in some pieces, and then I think I coat them in that foam tape, just as a little bit of a cushion. All right, so this is probably one of the harder things to do. So I wanted to put it at an angle so that it would have as much flow as possible, even though I have like three 90-degree angles that this the water's going to have to go through, which is not good for flowing. But I thought at least I can have it at a downward angle, like a nice pitch, so that it inherently wants to flow even through all these 90-degree angles. Because I could have gone 90 straight out from there through the wall, but I decided to go at an angle, which then makes it even harder to cut a hole with a hole saw. So we eventually get it, and probably the next most complicated part is just getting it all glued together. Okay, so we're at a good stopping point for today. As you can see from the time lapse, I was trying to go underneath this bar, but then I was basically going to end up with like a water trap, and that was just going to slow down the water from filling. It probably still would have filled, but meh. So, and then I could have gone straight across and then up, but if I can go like this, then I get even better water flow. So the nozzle, the black part right there, I actually chopped about a 1/2 inch off of that because of our shelves. I'm trying to get everything off of out of the path of this shelf because that giant tank goes right here. So this will be tie wrapped back. It'll be out of the way. The wiring's just loose right now. So got the sending unit mounted. That was pretty straightforward. It was a little challenging getting all the junk out of there. I think what I'm going to do is before we fully glue all of this in, I'm going to take that home and wash it out with the hose. Just try to get as many little particles out as I can. Now the pump itself actually has a little screen, so this line is going to go directly from here to this fitting. So everything's stainless on there, and then I'm going to make sure I have no leaks right here. But all of this shouldn't be under pressure other than the water weight itself. So I understand that this is not ideal, and it's not the most, it's not the best way to flow. Like if it was the best way to flow, it would come all the way over here and then over there. But I have a shelf right there. So keep in mind, I'm dealing with a very, very, very small, compact trailer here. And also, we're not going to be filling it from this way that much. Hopefully that dehumidifier is going to be pulling its weight. We're on the home stretch now. Just have some final wiring to do, and got to wire in the light and the switch. But yeah, I think I'm going to clean up and call it a day. All right, let's get on to the wiring now. So the pump wiring is going to go across there. It's going to come up. I'm kind of thinking that I'm going to have it go through here. It's going to go through here, through there, I think through the beam, through this beam, and then over here, because I'm going to put a switch on the inside of the bathroom wall so that when you come in, you can turn on the lights and you can turn on the pump. So that way, if we're driving down the road and something happens and this gets punctured or something like that, that pump, since it's run by a pressure switch, so it keeps pressure in the line, it'll just keep going till the tank's empty. Like it'll just keep chugging. So I'd feel much better if I had everything to a switch, and might as well put that switch in the bathroom so you don't have to come into the trailer itself necessarily to turn on the pump. So I bought a 15-foot with an SAE connector, which is what the pump already has on it. And I bought the same gauge, looked at the wiring diagrams. This gauge should be fine for the distance it'll be traveling with the amount of amps that the pump will be taking. Also, the wire for the Renergy battery monitor, I'd never really liked it being right there, so I think I'm going to maybe drill a hole right here and just have it kind of coming around and going through there. I would have it go through here, but the problem is it has these white connectors on them, and the hole would have to be big enough to fit that white connector right here. If I just drilled through and then opened this up and then pulled the wire up into that slot, I wouldn't have to have such a big hole. So I think I'm going to go with that method. I'm going to measure to see from the inside of the bathroom, because either the switch has to go here or it has to go here. I think I would prefer it here because I'm concerned about these ramps speeding it up, although the ramps could just go here. So I'm going to measure from the inside of the bathroom to see where I would like it better. But yeah, let's get to it. All right, this wiring is just, it's pretty straightforward and it's a little tedious. This part of drilling through two pieces of wood at the same time just to make enough of a hole to get the wire for the battery shut in there. All right, so this part, routing the wire through all of these studs, because I don't want it to come in contact with the table or anything else that I could get pinched. And I definitely wanted the switches all the way closest to the door as possible, so that way it kind of just feels natural. As soon as you open the door, you can turn on the lights. So right here, I'm just taping it off, and then I'm going to use the oscillating tool. As you'll see, you don't need to get this absolutely perfect because the cover will cover up a lot of the, if you overcut right here, just don't go too crazy. All right, so now that you have wire going to the switches, now wire has to come back from the switches going through all the same holes. So you need to take that in consideration when you're drilling out the holes to make sure you have enough for the wire going there and coming back. Okay, so it's just preliminarily wired in right now, so you can look down there. All right, so if I pull up that table, it's all right there. Still got to pull some wire through and really tuck it in, but it's close. Wire's right here. Now I did drill 2 holes just because I didn't want the holes to be too big, and then I was hoping I could sneak this one underneath there, but I couldn't, so this is what it is. This is only, you know, just to test it. It's the light for the gauge right here, I would also like to tie into that switch, but I can't really wire that in until this is in. Yeah, it's going to be sort of an ordeal from what I was looking at. Just like how I can't really do the plastic weld on all of that until it's in, because it's also going to be an ordeal. Let me bring you around here. So here's where we are. The whole being off, remember what I was talking about hiding your crimes? It doesn't matter because, check that out, as soon as that's on, you're all good, right? So I wanted to talk first. So yes, these are 120 volt switches. So 120 volts can shock you by itself, but 12 volts can't. So it's my understanding that you can use 120 volt stuff on 12 volt low amperage circuits, or you can't use 12 volt stuff on 120 volt because like this case right here would probably be metal and things like that. It would have a greater degree of shocking you. So I'm going to try this out. So you'll notice the different sizes of the switch. This switch is just going to turn on that light and the light that's inside of there. So when you walk into the trailer, you're going to go like that. So see if I can get both of them in there. So that's cool. So the pump itself says it takes 15 amps max. This is a 20 amp switch. It's a 20 amp switch, DC or AC. So what that converts over, who knows? Okay, I'm sure there's some math to it. But what I'm just using it and I'm going to try it out. There is a way for me to hot wire the pump on the other side. But like I was saying before, if for some reason when we're driving and there's a leak somewhere, the pump will just keep going until the tank is empty. So here we go. You can hear it. So I'm just going to try this out. It's a heavy duty switch. We'll know better if that switch works once it gets under significant load. Like when it builds up to the pressure. Right now it's just running, so pretty excited about that. Let me put on the cover. All right, there's the switch on. I don't know. It's okay. It was cheap and it goes with it now, but might want to upgrade that to something with a little bit more character in the future. But yeah, it's okay. So yeah, we'll see how everything works. We'll see if the switch burns out. Yeah, hopefully it doesn't. All right. Okay, so now we got to get done everything underneath the water tank before we can install the water tank. So the connector, the SAE connector that I have underneath the front of the trailer, I got to wire that in, extend that wire down to these bus blocks, and I can plug the positive to there, but the negative, you don't want to plug it into here. You want to plug it into here, and then that way your battery monitor will be accurate. So everything that is drawing a current, you want it on this side of the battery monitor. If it's on this side, the batteries will be low, but you won't know that they're low. So everything on this side of the monitor. So I'm gonna plug it in there, and then the hose for the dehumidifier, I gotta route that up, and then I'll just dangle it over here, because then that'll curve up and plug into the top of the water tank. So I got to get that done, and then might go in there with a vacuum, try to get everything out. Here's the hose that came with the dehumidifier. Just gonna put that in, and here's the 10 gauge SAE connector that I got that'll extend it, and then had to get some special heat shrink terminals for it, because on the bus blocks that I have, they're 3/8, so I need 3/8 that can go down to 10 gauge wire. So got those. Yeah, I'm gonna get started on this. So a lot of this part is just fishing wire through, making sure that as you're driving down the road, it's not going to be rubbing on things, making sure it's out of the way, making sure it looks good, making sure that you're not tangled up with a bunch of other wires. So this part is, I guess, a little tedious, but you just want to make sure that all of this is tidy so that if you're in the middle of nowhere, you can much more easily diagnose a problem. All right, got everything done. Dehumidifier hose is routed right there. The power cable is routed right there. Also, the dehumidifier's power cord goes right there. The rest of it is rolled up behind here, and then it is routed up here. This still needs a little bit of cleaning up, but comes over here, goes over here, plugs into here. So what we got to do now is put in the tank, and then put the bar going across the front, figure out the PCV, get all that cleaned up and then welded together, and then wire in the gauge with the sending unit. So that's what we're going to do now. All right, so this is one of the harder things to do, especially if you're trying not to make a mess. So we dry fitted the whole thing in there, which basically means we didn't glue anything. And then we put marks on each one of the ends so that we knew if we were gluing it outside the trailer, we just had to get it, line those marks back up. So then here we're pushing it back in, and there's no way to do this but to glue it in place. So this is not technically going to be able to come out unless you cut it out at this point. It's the only way to ensure that it would the lowest profile and the best water sealing possible. So you can see the pipe goes through one beam, and then it goes through one of the beams of the shelf. And now we're putting in this board, which should lock it in all four directions. So it shouldn't be able to go side to side. It shouldn't be able to go forward or back. And then when the shelf is down, it can't go up. So this will lock it down every which way. And then this will also give us a place to mount the hose that teed off from the tee after the filter to go into the bathroom. All right, so right here we're wiring up the gauge sending unit to the gauge itself, and the power for the light in the gauge. So there's a lot going on here, and I do have a little bit of a weird conflict between the instructions for the sending unit and the instructions for the gauge. They're both made by the same company, but for some reason the wiring is slightly different on them, but I'll explain it. Finally starting to see the finish line here. All right, so wired all that up. So the gauge and the sending unit are from the same company, this 100 Tech Universal. It is kind of odd though, because what connects into the tank, you need to connect the blue wire from this to the black wire of the tank, and then the blue wire of that to go. So I think all of that could have been a little, they could have kept it the same colors, but whatever. Got all that wired in. Basically, I just wanted to keep it out of the way of the shelves. So when we're sliding stuff in, hopefully we don't nick any of it. So the only thing I'm missing on the tank is I just need to put a clamp here, and then a clamp up there for the vent tube. Just need to get those clamps, not a big deal. We glued everything in. That was very much a pain. Definitely put like paper towels underneath anything, because that stuff just wants to drip everywhere and get everywhere. So all that's in. The line for the dehumidifier is in. Probably need a smaller hose clamp there. The line for the pump is in. I recommend definitely putting hose clamps on here. When I just had this in a bucket, I noticed it was cavitating around this, like it was sucking around it. So definitely recommend clamp around there, because it was sucking in air and it wasn't priming. Yeah, so that's it for there. I finished up the wiring up here It's you know, it's an organized rat's nest. So in the bathroom, turn on that gauge. So with the light, the gauge light comes on, so that's pretty cool. You can actually change the color of the gauge. You can go, I don't know, red, orange, yellow, green, purple. It said it had a cycle where you can just cycle everything, but I'm pretty happy the way it is right now. Pump still works. So all that's good, and all that's pretty well close to being done. Pretty excited about that. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to plug in the dehumidifier just to landline, and just let it run and see how long it takes to fill this up, and see how much water I get overnight. Right, pushed it out. One of the casualties we had last trip was some of the screws on these new fenders fell out. I think it's at least one or two fell out. So I need to address that, and I think I'm going to maybe construction adhesive it on, but we're going to take off these wheels and then re-grease the bearings. A little bit overkill to do it every time, but I'd rather do it every time we go on a trip. And then this door, this little hanger thing that clips into right here so the wind can't close it. I got a set of those, so I'm going to install one for this door, so that way if we leave it running all night, this thing's not, if the wind kicks up, it's not, you know what I mean? I don't know that I'll get to the replacing all the screws on this trip. I'm trying to focus on the essentials because I think we're basically leaving in 2 days. I'm going to jack this up, get the wheels off, maybe clean them, and then put them back on after I grease the wheels. All right, you've seen me do this before where I'm jacking it up and I'm taking the wheels off to grease the bearings. This time I'm using a grease gun from Lock-In Lube, and it has a loop and lock grease coupler. So it's just like a quick release for the grease coupler. It makes it a lot easier to grease the bearings, and you're not fighting the coupler the whole time. So definitely recommend. It's a little pricey, but definitely recommend. It works a lot better. Okay, got all of that cleaned up and greased. I double checked this fender. I'm not going to glue it on this time because it's pretty solid. Hopefully that doesn't come to bite me. Just kind of pressed for time. I did grease these fittings back here, or the hinges. So barely tell from the glare, but yeah, this is on there. Yeah, this feels quite a bit more solid than the other one. And then there's the latch. So basically you pull that out and lift this guy up, and then now, I mean, it'll make that sound, but it won't like open and slam. So I did have to bend that to get it to fit, obviously, but just gonna organize the tongue box, and I torqued down all the wheels. Everything's pretty much ready to go. I have the battery charging currently since we're outside and it's a nice sunny day. Yeah, currently the panels on top are producing 580 watts at 42.8 amps. This thing says the batteries are 72% charged, but I think it's got to go through a few cycles for this computer to really figure out where everything's at, because they could be fully charged right now, I think. I remember once we hooked a load up to this continuously, this thing felt like it was a little bit more accurate, but I don't know. I've never run multiple batteries at one time off of this, so we'll just have to see. I've had the refrigerator on a couple of days just plugged in outside, so that it's nice and cold, so that it wasn't going to tax all this to get it cold. And then because it's a lot more efficient once it's cold. That startup is pretty, taxing. Also, I was going to show you, see if you can see it. There's a water level right there. All that's from the dehumidifier. Just We've had it on the past 2 nights here. Now it's only been 20% humidity here, and it's been inside of a warehouse in Southern California. It's been quite a heat wave, but I think that is probably about maybe 3 to 4 gallons at the most. It's hard to tell because it's not enough to register on the gauge yet, but if you take that amount and then it being 8 inches tall and then divide that by 21 gallons, I got a rough estimate that way. So I think it's in that range, but the trailer is kind of tilted right now, so it looks like it's a little bit more full than it is. So we'll just have to see. We might fill it up with water before we go, or I might let it run all night tonight because we're leaving tomorrow morning. But pretty happy with everything. Everything looks pretty tidy. Now it's all about packing the tubs and double checking everything that's in the tubs. Alright, we're off. We're loading everything back up. This time we're actually loading a smaller tent along with the bigger tent. The bigger tent is just too big for certain campgrounds and RV parks, so just a normal 6-person tent, just to make it so that while we're at those campgrounds, it's a much easier setup than lugging out a 200 to 300 pound tent. Alright, just bringing you in. Trailer's all packed down. We were test fitting to see if a few of our rolling suitcases would fit in here. I'm always surprised how much these straps... Nothing. So we are leaving the carpet for the Lotus Bell tent. It was just too much weight, and we're only using the tent for like 3 or 4 days. So right now, got everything going. I got the fridge plugged in outside with the dehumidifier plugged in outside. Still waiting for this thing to figure itself out. It's basically, it clicks between 82% and 100. I think it's still just trying to figure out how many, like what's going on there, the batteries and all that. So yeah, I'm gonna close her up and push her back in, and we are leaving tomorrow morning. Stay tuned to the next episode where we take the trailer back out on the road. We hit some epic camping spots, and in one of the camping spots it's beautiful, but we had to abandon it because of the wind. Abandoning ship. This trip definitely has its trials, but we go back into Yellowstone and check that out, and we finally see Old Faithful. If you're enjoying this channel or this video series, please subscribe to the channel, like the videos. That really helps us out. But thanks for watching, and stay tuned.